Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. We are here after the URC semi-finals, and we have got our final two competitors, a repeat of last year's final between Leinster and the Bulls, happening in 2 weeks on a Friday night. In case you are someone like Cooks that needs to be told these things quite early. I am Thala. I'm joined by Shaun today. Unfortunately, Cooks can't join us. And yeah, we're going to be looking at the URC semi-finals, the Springbok squad that's been announced for the first two games of the season, or first game of the season, and the SAA game. A lot of coaching news, a lot of the knockout rugby that's happened the last week. Shaun, there is a ton to go through today.
Yeah. Oh, we almost need to release this in like a Netflix three-part series because it's going to. The thing is there's so much to talk about, but there's a lot to add to it. It's not, there's a difference of opinion. There are some heartbreaks. There's some obvious things, but everything's worth the discussion. So yeah. And anything that I can chat about that will actually, I don't know, remotely upset me will hopefully warm me up because I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a little bit packed with the layers. I feel like, I feel like, I don't know. It's ridiculous. I'm freezing.
Yeah. I don't think the storm has helped the Cape Town faithful to feel a bit warmer after this weekend, unfortunately.
I think they did. I know they lost, but I think the Stormers were actually quite good.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I think let's start with the Bulls being the ones that get their away semi-final win in Loftus. I mean, Loftus, lol, at Edinburgh. So this was the fifth time in a row that the first place team in the URC has not got to the final of the URC. So
What?
that has been a constant of this tournament that you finish first, you're not going to a final. That is not worth it for you. And the Bulls have been the ones delivering the dagger on two occasions, obviously to Leinster a few years ago as well. Shaun, yeah, so I mean, this game started with Leinster, I mean, with Glasgow running amok, being 21 points to three. There was the Handré Pollard yellow card. It seemed like Glasgow was just tearing the Bulls apart. And then the Bulls just got that try before halftime. And in the second half, to be honest, they should have probably won this by about 10 or so points if Handré Pollard bought his kicking boots. Like they completely dominated the second half.
Yeah, interesting. Eh, I just purely because I'm curious, but I wish I could be around the Glasgow players and that
Mm.
post-match discussion to find out what's going on because the I really felt that Toulon loss in the Champions Cup quarterfinals or round of 16, I can't remember which one.
Quarterfinal.
I think that was recent enough and surprise enough for Glasgow to really be in a different place. But we saw a weakness in Glasgow that we also haven't seen before. I've not seen them in this type of game with this type of team crumble like that. They are susceptible to these sorts of problems, but it's generally when they're away in Italy or away in Wales or doing something away in South Africa against the Lions. You know what I mean? Like they've done it, but they do it with a different side. And I haven't seen them play like this to start a game and just be utterly dominant and then fall away. It's a very, dare I say it, very South African thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a South African thing or a Scottish thing because, obviously Franco Smith and Glasgow have been hyped up. And I mean, they won the URC 2 years ago as this team that, unlike Scotland, can win the big games, can sort of find solutions when there are problems, can sort of overcome a team, fronting up to them, and they sort of front up themselves. I think I mean, their pack is I mean, it has a good chunk of the Scottish team. So at club level, it's a really, really good pack. They just don't have any answers on Saturday, and I mean, look, the Bulls have probably one of the best scrums in the competition. They are able to dominate teams. We saw with the pick up and goes, they're able to really grind down on teams. They're good at their set piece. But it just felt like when Glasgow got the ball, they were so panicked. Like it wasn't Glasgow just being like, okay, cool, we're not going to get all of the ball this half. We're not able to win the turnover penalties that we did in the first half. How can we find a way back in this game? So it wasn't like, okay, Dan Lancaster, get us to the corners and let's try to pressure the balls from there. It wasn't okay. What's our sort of one backline move that we can unlock the balls? Like that wasn't happening. It wasn't like Roy Dodge, can you get us a turnover just to change the game? Like just they weren't able to get anything from the Bulls. And look, it's a massive credit to the Bulls because especially you want to go into the Glasgow changing room. I also want to go to the Bulls changing room and just being like, how do you start quite badly, quite sort of disastrously in defense, especially in the rucks? I think there was a stat that they had 5 turnovers conceded in the first 25 minutes, sort of, let's say around the Nokia yellow card, but they only had 8 rucks at that time. So you've conceded 5 turnovers, like the 8 rucks that you've had. How do you turn that around to then play a game where you're not only making a comeback, you're actually quite comprehensively better than the team? And we'll talk about a few of the factors. I think Steadman really helped a lot. Hanekom just went to another level. The scrum obviously as well. But yeah, I would love, I mean, I've seen some snippets of Jan Ackerman just speaking about, the importance of getting that try first after the second half and it being one of the best victories he's a part of. But they really, they didn't panic and they really got themselves together in order to come back in this game. And that is a lot of credit to Ackerman and to that team.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think they were allowed. I don't think panic really could have come into the mix because they were comprehensively behind and outplayed in that first half. So, like the panic would normally settle in when it's like kind of an arm wrestle and, it could go either way. But that try they scored in the first half was huge. It didn't bother Glasgow too much either. I don't think many sides, like it definitely would have been spoken about by both teams at halftime, but I think it was big for the Bulls, and the fact that they doubled down and did it again in the start of the second half was the swing point for me. There's no doubt in my mind that the player of the match is Steadman. His impact in the 16 minutes he played 10 minutes from 40 to 50 minutes when Moodie was off for an HIA. And then he played the final 6 or so minutes or 8
Yeah.
minutes. Might have my numbers wrong, but his impact was unbelievable. And it opens up a whole bunch of more questions. It reinforces a lot of worries that I had. So that's probably also why I'm bringing it up. But there's something that needs to happen there. Away from that, I thought the Bulls dovetailed quite well. Like I thought there were so many opportunities that certain big name players were either driven back. The Bulls were getting smashed back on carries, and they managed to have their other half do a little something, and they were managing to get some space in. But what they didn't do was give up. I think the way Glasgow came and did what they did, and an interesting thing and something that is actually quite wild is Glasgow did not score points after the 23rd minute. Like they scored their points in 21 points in 23 minutes. That was also a massive factor. If that was them scoring those points in 35 minutes, I do think that the things change because the Bulls were able to just get obliterated. Then they were able to fight back, manage life a little bit. 2 yellow cards, which really hurt them, but they were able to still be in, score that try before half time. And then you like the momentum is swinging. I think they felt that something was happening and it really hinged on the first to score in the opening 10 minutes of the second half. That was it. If Glasgow score, you almost feel like the writing's on the wall. But with the Bulls scoring, you're like, whoa, we're in for something quite special here. It could go either way.
Yeah. Let's sort of somewhat sequentially go through this game. So, the Bulls get an early 3-0 lead. It's interesting how both South African teams try to build an innings and sort of kick their goals and weren't, we've seen it before, I think. And I do think it's probably the more correct decision. I've almost been swayed by the last few years of rugby, being like, I'd go for seven. I don't really mind that. But they were like, no, let's build an innings, let's accumulate the points that way. Then the Pollard yellow card, I mean, there's an argument that maybe the defensive mistakes from Forster and Moodie, especially by Moodie, are because they were covering for one man. But even in that yellow card by Pollard, it was the Bulls backline, not necessarily Moodie himself, but the Bulls backline just being all in sixes and sevens from a relatively simple and not like they were coming from quick ball hinge move that Glasgow did. It's like they passed it to Pelotu and they had Lancaster looping around him. And Moodie and Pollard just didn't really read it well. You're trying to get into a passing lane to stop the pass. That's fine. But if you're a little bit too late, now you're in no man's land. Now you have to reach for a pass to try and get an intercept, which basically is what got Pollard out and he gets a yellow card. And I mean, no problems there. There was an overlap basically if Pollard doesn't reach out for that ball. And then the first two Glasgow tries were just Glasgow backline moves that tore the Bulls apart, absolutely shredded them to pieces. The second one, even more than the first one. And I mean, the second one had the initial line break by Rowe. And then when they came back to stay inside, it was the Bulls forwards that were from that original scrum that were all defending against the backline, and the backline players were still on the other side with Rowe. Then the third try was that penalty try from the maul as well. And I mean, as a Bulls fan, I was like, oh, okay, this is clearly going to be one of those games where the Bulls catch 30 or 40. And we know, I mean, we've been talking about the last few weeks. Glasgow's really good. Glasgow's really, they've got that confidence. I thought that Toulon thing was a blip because of the pressure of the Champions Cup. So I'm sort of thinking to myself, okay, I guess this is not. I mean, I was saying during last week, I was like, oh no, the Bulls and Glasgow are the two best teams in the competition. Clearly, in the first 20 minutes, the evidence was Glasgow's way ahead of them.
Yeah. The ease at which Glasgow scored those tries or made line breaks with their backlines, it's almost like that training you do, And I didn't do it a lot, but where you, as a defensive backline, have your back turned, and when you face up, the other team's already in motion, and then you've got to try and evaluate what's going on. That's almost how it looked but except the Bulls literally were heads up the whole time. It was insane. And it's alarming, but I do think that it's a fixable space in a short period of time. Like, I don't think it's a massive error. I think it's fixable with personnel, but also with a little bit of training that they're going to have at home now for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Can we talk? Sorry, Shaun, but can we talk about the Moodie thing? Is this experiment working?
No. So the experiment is the experiment is working if you're looking for something that is post 20, I don't even know what next year is, 2027 World Cup.
Yeah.
But but the plan has always been for him to be taking on that Springbok role a lot sooner. I think that's quite clear. I think it's also quite clear that he's going to be a viable option to cover 13 for the Springboks moving forward. So, and that is going to encompass the next World Cup. Am I comfortable with Moodie being at 13 in a knockout game for the Springboks? No. And he's currently in that space. So there's two things. One, most players, South African players, tend to get a lot better and a lot sharper when they spend time in Springbok camp. So there's that. Okay. But the other thing is we have other guys that are very likely further down that road at at adult pro 13 than Moodie is right now. Because Moodie on attack, that's the thing is everyone can argue all they want. The good things that Moodie and Rieko Ioane do at 13 is attack based. Everything is attack based. It's attack based, it's speed based. Even then they make errors, but because it's such a massive line break, you kind of overlook that. But often there's not a pass where it should be. The issues lie on defense. And could it be like, is there a constant chopping and changing? Like, does he need to be a 13 the whole season with Forster? Probably, but it's not happening. So he needs to then spend the whole time with Damien or Andre at the Springbok camp to get that sorted out. But there's no ways we're not playing Creel. And Lukhanyo Um's been brought back in the mix. Like, I don't know how, I mean, I know the Springbok squad's been announced for the Barbarians and the
Zimbabwe.
SAA game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to say no, but I'm not opposed to that happening because 13 is the hardest place to be on defense. You are in control of everything. Look at the Stormers with and without Ruan now. Look at the Springboks with and without Lukhanyo. We struggled at 13 for many years. We've had guys gap filling and fixing it, but everyone always talks about Jacques Fourie. We never had someone that really cemented it, and anyone that cemented it could have been later on in their career and they didn't hang around as long. So we've been really spoiled there. So, like, it's going to take time. We know that. But what is the timeline you're willing to deal with and how many losses are you willing to take? So that's my thing. Like, I chat to a mate of mine, English guy, and I said to him, how many losses are you willing to take with Tommy Freeman at 13? Who incidentally is a lot better at 13 than I would think he's a better defender at 13 than Rieko Ioane is, and that Moodie is right now. But Freeman's better on the wing. Moodie's better on the wing. I don't think Moodie is not in the match day 23 if he doesn't play 13. I want him playing. He makes those reads. They should translate better. And I'm talking under Springbok rugby. His reads and the decisions he makes out on the wing should translate better to 13 than what they currently are. But the systems are different at the Bulls. Maybe he's confused in them, stuck between trying to learn the Springbok way, because he's still trying to learn the Springbok defensive setup at 13. Like, is that muddying the water? Should he play on the wing for the Bulls and then in the Springbok setup only be focused on 13? It doesn't make sense. Maybe that's the answer. But I wouldn't be comfortable with Moodie at 13 for big games. And I think his focus should solely be defensively and little tweaks on attack.
Yeah, look, it's unfair to put missed tackles solely on a 13.
Especially in the Springbok setup.
Yes. And even the Bulls seem to have not a 1,000,000% rush, but they are like, go in, go inside, try to stop it. You're not going to drift. So Moodie on Saturday's game, 11 tackles attempted, 6 tackles missed. And I think there are some that are good missed tackles where you're sort of stopping momentum. Someone else is able to clean up the scraps. But I think at least half of them, if not more, were big line breaks. Probably big mistakes where there's multiple options coming down your channel and you just choose the wrong one. And sometimes you're unlucky, sometimes you're just not able to read it. And to be fair to Moodie, this is probably the toughest test in the URC for a center combination that can tear you apart. Obviously, we talked about how good McDowell has been. We've talked about how good Tupeloge has been for years. And they've got that sort of Scottish system up to a T. So you can give them some level of grace for that. But I think it does answer that question of, from a Bok context, I don't think it's a good thing. Just from a Bulls context, though, as we've talked about, I think throughout the last few years, Moodie's best position for the Bulls is wing, unfortunately for him. Like, Gans is a better center. And Creel, when he's available, he's also usually a better option at 13 than what Moody would be. So if the Bulls want to play their best rugby, it makes the most sense for Moody to be playing on the wing. For this URC final, I do hope that they put Moody on the wing and have Gans in the midfield. I mean, Leicester's backline will offer a different test. I don't think they'll be as intricate as the Glasgow one was. And Rico Ioane obviously is almost like a mirror image of what Moody's offering you. But if it's Rico, if it's Ringrose, it doesn't really matter. You also want, I think, and that's the big advantage that you, or disadvantage that you have with Moody at center. You are missing out on one of the best high ball exponents being used in their natural position. And we saw the box kicking that Jamison Gibson-Park had. And, Jacobs is just not as good with sort of the aerial stuff as Moody is. And we saw that Zas and Willemse were constantly under pressure with that. So I do hope that is one of the decisions that's being made. But you know what? The backline was one thing. It was also the rucks. They conceded 5 turnovers in the first 25 minutes. And I don't know if it was an interpretation of the ref thing. Brace, I think actually, even though there were quite a few penalties, I think Andrew Brace had a really good game. He was really consistent. He laid the law down early. He was hot on the sealing off penalties. Like I think he blew by 4 of them that I can remember. He was very fair to the pilferers. I think the only big decision he probably got wrong was Van Staden late in the game. I think he was clean and he said he put his hands on the floor first. But yeah, I think he was quite fair. And once the Bulls read him, and the Bulls do have quite a few turnover specialists in their team, they were able to then turn the game around. And, we were arguing or debating about whether Rudolph would start. But actually, I do see now sort of the plan of having Rudolph and Van Staden come in the second half when there are a few more rucks that you can exploit. That's a crazy combination because there's Van Staden, Rudolph, and Hanekom as a loose trio. All 3 of them are able to pull in a ruck. You've got Grobelaar as well. You've got back. I think Arnsa also got a turnover or 2. So you've got sort of threats all over the field now. And especially if you're defending a lead the last 20 minutes, that counts a lot. So in the first 20, 25 minutes, the Bulls' approach in the rucks was just not good enough. Like they weren't able to clean out. They weren't getting their numbers there early enough. They offered Glasgow a lot of opportunities to interfere. And good on them because usually that's the thing South African teams aren't able to do is to adapt to the game and adapt to the ref. And they did that.
Yeah. There's so many positives to take out what the Bulls did though. And if you look at not just in game, the best part is that we're having these conversations about what the Bulls did in game, which, as you mentioned, is one of our Achilles heels. Is we often are we're just focusing on what we wanted to focus on for that game, and then don't grow it within the 80 minutes. But if you look at the way the Bulls have changed the way life has gone this whole season, it's also been quite something. So it must be quite an amazing group to be around. There were a couple of guys, like I thought Handré Pollard had a little bit of a shaky one as well. There were a couple of guys, there were probably 3 or 4 guys you could probably point and say, listen, not your best outing, but they still managed to overcome that, which is huge for them. But yeah, it's so interesting. I was surprised at how much Glasgow dominated the breakdown, the speed, all of that, especially considering the Bulls midfield as well. So we're well aware that teams do use their midfielders to ruck and act as additional loose forwards. And Moody's a big guy and Forster gets stuck in. So it's not like the Glasgow were being expansive and just getting around the loosies and the pack and therefore having their way at ruck time. It was very interesting, but how they came back from it. I will say one thing. You touched on it earlier. You spoke about like what one thing could Glasgow have done better in the second half just to change things up. I thought that Stafford McDowell could have been used a little bit harder as a 12 in a 13 role, like just changing that up, because we know Pilote is one of the best kick pass run 12s there is, But using Stafford McDowell as a hard carrier, like even if he was running it in sort of a inside 13 channel, like not necessarily 12, but kind of tight, I thought that that would have changed things for them because what they were lacking just that 1 meter, 2 meter front foot ball minimum.
Yeah.
And we saw in the first half when they got front foot ball, they were insane. The speed of their rucks and how they were just hitting. Like I was gonna say, listen, Glasgow don't do well when Horn doesn't play. Like he didn't play in the Toulon game and they lost. And then Dobie started, and I was like, I'm gonna actually watch him. Yes, he's very
Quick.
good. I've never thought he was bad. I quite like him and I quite rate him. But he's quick. He's got a really good solid pass, and he was getting the most beautiful ball. And then they weren't able to create that again later. And I thought Stafford McDowell might have been the answer to that.
Yeah. I'm just actually looking at their stats. Tupelotu, 10 carries, 18 passes. McDowell, 5 carries, 14 passes, which kind of makes sense because they are really good passes in contact. They really are usually good at hitting those passes. But you saw in the second half, Sean, and I think that's the point you're making. They got a lot of those passes wrong when they sort of got a ball for the first time in 5 minutes, and then there were a few forward passes. There's some passes that didn't go to hand. Like it just, they sort of felt the pressure. And that's when you should sort of go to your old reliable plans and just go, okay, McDowell just carry us over, or even Sione himself. And they just weren't able to create those opportunities. I see they had 6 22-meter entries. I would assume, I mean, obviously they had 3 from the 3 tries. I don't think they had more than one after the 3 tries that they scored. Like, I'm struggling to remember, like, if they had one, if not two. I don't think they did, which means that the Bulls were just really good at keeping them out of the 22. And I think another fault for Glasgow was that they played a ton of rugby in between the 22s. Like they sort of, once they got a ball, and there were some moments, and I mean, we'll talk about it, the Leinster Stormers. It felt like in the last 20 minutes, unfortunately, Nizam Kar, obviously he's a stalwart in South African rugby, but goodness gracious, he just had just a horrible last 20 minutes. So a lot of those knock-ons and turnovers, and it just felt like, okay, Glasgow, just kick it into the 22, set yourself up, try to put the pressure on the Bulls, but then they're trying to play rugby from 60 meters out, and you make it a mistake, and now you give Pollard a chance with the penalty that he misses. So it was just a little bit too panicked for a team that has won. Like it's not like Glasgow has never won before. They're not Ulster. They're not, the Lions or it's a team that has won the last few years. Like why? I just don't get how they're so panicked. And it's strong internationals, Lions players that just beat France just now. Like, yeah, it is a bit confounding how panicked they can become in two of the most important matches that they've had this season. They've sort of, crapped the bed, unfortunately.
No, absolutely. They were panicked like you'd expect the Bulls to play who have made 1,000 finals and not got over the line. You
And
know what I
choked,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. And you would expect more. You expect them to be more composed. Like their game plan is very clearly touches. Like how many touches can we get? How many passes? How much width can we go? Like can we just mess everyone around? The Bulls, after a while, were like, well, actually, we're literally all playing eyes on the ball, like trying to go to the ball, like under eights rugby, and we're getting exposed badly. So the Bulls just were like, cool, let's just fan out and have a little bit of a peripheral defense. And Glasgow weren't able to make that change and do something different. But having said that, I wish I could understand the psychology behind it. Like, at what point do you stop doing your plan because it's not working, or do you think it's going to work? I mean, it gave them 21 points in 23 minutes. It gave them a title 2 years ago. It's helped them beat France with 85% of these players in the other side. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
at what point do you like, listen, let's just change it? And that's what we need. Like just don't change the game plan. But I tell you what we are going to do in these environments. I want Stafford to run it up or to Sione to run it up. And
Mm.
then let's build from there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the stat here. They, in the sort of their possession, um, in between the 22s, they played 82% of the game. So, they just weren't able to just stay in, in the 22 and make opportunities from that. And yeah, you can't win rugby games like that. Obviously, the Bulls, they had 30% in the Glasgow 22. A lot of it was that 10-minute period where they just were picking up and going and forcing penalties and forcing mistakes. And I think for Glasgow, it's just we can't win a game if you're not able to get into the 22 and to create those opportunities. Shaun, I mean, other sort of notable Bulls performances, I think we've mentioned the scrum. Francois Klopper should get a lot of credit for, heading things up. Well, I think you mentioned him last week, just being like, oh, okay, cool. Like he's been good. I mean, making a pretty big call that you're not starting Volkolo now that he's fit worked out really well. And obviously, Volko was able to give impact in the second half. The play of the match and the play of the season, Embrose Papier having another really good game. Like, just, I mean, he has an insane sort of try scoring streak at the moment. And he was just able to control things quite well. He was able to pick up the intensity when he needed to. He kicked really well in most times. Like, yeah, I'm quite excited for him. Obviously, things have opened up for him really well in the Springbok setup that he's probably going to get a game or two. Yeah, I think it's worked out quite well for him. I've mentioned Hanekom. I thought the loose forwards in general were really good, and considering who they were up against, I think that's a big credit to them. And yeah, we've mentioned Gans as well. I I think Villy LaRue in the second half, I think the first 20 minutes was a bit dodgy. Like a lot of the kicks were sort of being sprayed and whatever. But once he got into the game, he was really able to, do Villy LaRue things, call the shots, get the balls in the right position. So I think, yeah, there were, like you said, Shaun, there were some performances that were a bit questionable and maybe didn't quite work out. But then some of the players really made up for that. And this obviously got them the win.
Yeah, and to think to have so many players play scratchy games, and notably, like a lot of those players are big time Springboks as well,
Mm,
and then still have the team get over the line and be able to play in a final is probably the reason why I'm actually backing the Bulls. Like, and I would back them anyway because the South African side against Leinster, it's no brainer. But I'm backing them to be competitive. And
mm,
the thing is the Bulls will be competitive. Sorry, I think the Bulls can be competitive for the last 15, 20 minutes.
yeah.
Still be in the game against Leinster. I think Leinster are going to be a lot more worried, a lot more focused about this. The thing is, I think they want to really make a statement win in this final to try and make up for all the horse shit they've been dishing up for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. The Bulls have not fully shown how they can dominate a big name team yet. And it looks like they can. It looks like they've got the goods because any one of those players that had a good game, it's easy to talk about them because it was against Glasgow and they won. But even those players that didn't have a good game, you know what they're capable of, and they're going to be wanting to fix
Mm,
that. The guys are not living in a bubble and thinking, listen, we won, it doesn't matter. Like everyone
yeah.
wants to better themselves.
And I would imagine, I think Paul de Vet might be back. I think maybe I'm more hoping than thinking. I think maybe a David Creel might be back. It'll be interesting to see if this 2 week break can sort of have some of those players return. And then I guess next week we can definitely talk about selections and dilemmas and, Moody versus Hans and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think this squad can get stronger. But I mean, someone made this point on Blue Sky as well. The Bulls would have a much better chance if they were facing Leinster this weekend. It just feels like also with Leinster, the injuries that they have at prop, yeah, Volkolo would be very much looking forward to facing Usanov or Cahir or whichever sort of Leinster loose head comes in there. Yeah, I think the other one more point I want to make is the yellow cards were just really bad moments for both sides. So the Pollard yellow, Glasgow won that period 14 to nil. The Cummings yellow, the Bulls won that 12 to nil. And funny enough, the Nokia yellow, the Bulls won that 5 points to nil. So obviously they were able to really knuckle down. They obviously did that pick up and go and played really tight and got reward for that. But yeah, obviously discipline will be a big theme, I think, for the final. And obviously it's something that also popped up in the second semi-final as well.
I do want to say there was a little bit of unhappiness about the Cummins yellow because of the timing of it, 43 minutes, you know.
Mm,
But if I'm not mistaken, Glasgow got a warning towards the end of that first half.
yes.
It's unbelievable officiating. Like, that's
Yeah,
so
to
good.
remember. Because usually
Yeah.
they just carry on and just as if nothing happened.
Yeah. And yeah, I thought that was really, really good.
I think, yeah, I think the yellow could have come earlier. Like during that time when the Bulls was like that sort of siege they had in the 22, Glasgow had like four penalties. They should have got a yellow card then. So, yeah, I kind of think it balanced out in a way. But yeah, great on Andrew Brace for coming back to that and saying, look, you can't concede penalties in 22 that much. So I think Glasgow conceded 13 penalties in total, nine of them in their own half. Like, just things like that where you can't win a big game if you do that, or you're making it really, really, really tough on yourself. Andre, okay, last 2 points. One, does Pollard, I mean, I'm glad he's going back home. Maybe he needs to get the right kicking boots for them. And I'm kind of feeling sorry for Glasgow that obviously they have to play the big games in a big stadium. I think this Edinburgh thing messed up with them to an extent as well.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like Leinster going to be playing their home final, not like on home soil per
Mm,
se. Glasgow had to play at Edinburgh. I think that playing at Edinburgh is probably the less of all the evils for them. You know, keeping it in Scotland, stuff like that. But yeah, it sucks. Like you spend your whole season working towards that. Like you want to play on home soil. So yeah, it did throw them a little bit.
and yeah, even the crowd just didn't feel, obviously when you're in Scotstoun, it's people on top of you, it's quite intense. It just didn't quite feel as intense as it could be.
Yeah, yeah, it was a tough one for them. Oh well.
Yeah. So, oh well, indeed. Let's go to the Leinster Stormers game. So, Leinster winning that 20 points to 11. It kind of followed a similar track to the Glasgow Bulls game. For a start from Leinster, Stormers sort of inching back into the game, into the second half. I think the two main differences were the Stormers just weren't able to get that sort of score early-ish enough to now put the pressure back on Leinster. And then obviously the last 20 minutes just went quite horribly for the Stormers for reasons we'll discuss just now. But, it wasn't a game for execution in the 22. I think both teams had 1.5 points per 22 entry, so it wasn't really good for that. But look, I think first of all, credit to Leinster for, finding a way. That's pretty much what they've been doing in the URC this season is playing seemingly at like 70, 80% of their ability, but just doing enough to win the games.
Yeah. Sure. We'll chat about it more at depth, but Leinster dominated so much of that game, but were not able to
Mm,
pull away. I thought the Stormers' defense, I thought the Stormers' heart, I thought the way that they played and how they presented themselves was unbelievable.
mm,
It's changed a couple mates, and I'm like, I don't think there's a single player that had a bad game. Obviously, Ruan Ackerman was the first name brought up, so there was one player that didn't have a good game, but every single player in that side delivered what they were supposed to deliver. Like, you know that Leinster are going to just be wave after wave after wave, and they hung in there. They defended. The pressure on the Stormers was astronomical. Like I have not seen pressure like that on a team and them manage to just scramble, hang on for a very, very long time
yeah.
in domestic competition.
And I think, yeah, their defense was really, really good. Like they were able to just Yeah, keep Leinster out. Obviously, we saw that sort of stand that they had just before halftime, and that was really important. And yeah, I mean, especially that second try kind of happens almost as a result of them sort of hanging on until the dam burst. They made 218 tackles, or they had to make up to 218 tackles compared to Leicester having only 90. So they really had to work. I think Evan Roos attempted 27 tackles. So, like, it was just one of those games where they really knuckled down. I guess the biggest difference is, look, Stormers just not did not create enough opportunities in the 22 to have a chance to take this game away. Like, there was chances. They got into the 22 six times. They did obviously score, um, get a few scores, but I think especially against a team like Leinster, you need to be able to get to 22 and to convert, but you need to obviously create the opportunities in the first place, unless you have like Bordeaux levels of efficiency.
Yeah, it was I think it was the emotional pressure that really was their biggest downfall, like just
Mm.
the mental state that they were in, because they physically stood up everywhere. And when there were two moments for me, one I don't have a problem with because I think with a little bit of experience and thinking back, you kind of would have done something different. And the second was just something that they should really have been better at. But there were two moments where the Stormers had an opportunity to put the pressure on. One was after that Ruan 50-22 and that
Mm.
coughed up possession. That was the reward, and that was the momentum swinger that the Stormers could literally would have not only put them within reach again, because if I'm not mistaken, I think they would have need to score another time after if they'd scored then. But I know that they either would have drawn level or gone slightly
I
ahead. But
think
I
they were
think they
still
would have.
within seven at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Or I think the conversion would have put them ahead. So they would still
Mm.
score. I think, anyway, regardless, that moment there, because that would have opened the crack for Leinster as well. Like that little bit of doubt, like a little bit of
Mm.
like light in the darkness. And that's what they needed, and they messed that up. And the other one was Imad Khan on that breakaway. Like
Mm.
I I look at that and I'm like, yes, he needed to kick a 50-22 there because he had such a big
Mm.
breakaway that he had time to slap it in the corner or kick a 50-22 and then everyone could have taken a deep breath. They could have had another go. But that is not criticism. I thought at that time when that breakaway came, he was literally all about getting as far away as possible and allowing everyone to catch up and then pressure Leinster and then build from there. But
Mm.
with what had happened, so firstly, Hugo Canan, ridiculously fast. Khan is blitz, but I know he had a lot more running in his legs and he had a couple of massive defensive efforts during the game. Um, and I think it was just that was about releasing the pressure. I think if he got that opportunity again, he might have probably looked for 50-22. And even if he got that 50-22 wrong, it probably would have been okay because you would already with the wide pan, you would have seen that Keane was going to catch him. So he had
Mm.
zero support. Khan had nobody.
No,
He was
he
on
ran
his
a
own.
yeah. I mean, yeah, again, Keenan just catching up to him, like really well done because I mean, yeah, Imad Khan, I don't know if he's the fastest nine in the world, but it looked like
He's not
he
slow.
had the beating of most people. Yeah. And
He's not.
Keenan just was able to reel him in. So yeah, just generally a fantastic Hugo Keenan game. Like it was very iffy in the Champions Cup final, but this was like vintage Hugo Keenan, like best fullback in the world type of stuff. Yeah, I mean, everyone I think in the pack, except for the props, made over 10 tackles. A lot of the subs made over 10 tackles. Turnison and Moerat, like they all sort of got into it. You can't ask for much more from the forwards. Like they scrum really well. The lineout was a bit of a mess. That's probably the one thing you could ask from them. And they were really good at just putting pressure on Leinster and just able to sort of generate, opportunities for turnovers and to change the momentum as you mentioned. And yeah, I think the backs largely were fine. They just didn't really, you need a sort of a backline performance with the minimal opportunities that they had where things are perfect, that passes are finding people, that they're making the right decisions, that they kick really well. And, I think Mattia and Khan, considering that they were definitely not the first choice 9 and 10 pairing for a knockout game, I think they did decently. I think Willemse largely ran things well from the back. I'm pretty happy with Du Plessis and now as well in the midfield. Yeah, Similani had some troubles with Lowe, but it's James Lowe. I think you can, when James Lowe gets that fend off, he's obviously quite unstoppable. So yeah, I think you're pretty happy with that. I mean, the bench obviously made some key mistakes, but I think largely they were fine. I mean, yeah, well, I think maybe this is the way to start talking about the big decisions made in the game. So let's start with Ruan Ackerman. I don't think there's too much argument against that being a red card.
No. Just to break it down, that red card comes from from two spaces. One, it was the pressure the Stormers were under, okay,
Mm.
and two, he missed it. Like you don't go in to blast someone out if you are potentially going to win that battle. Like you go in to try and win a battle that you have lost. And
Yeah.
you are hoping that just pure power pushes him off the ball because he lost that. It was Kelleher, if I'm not mistaken. Kelleher was
Yes.
down in on the ball and he was late to the party. And that's what happened. Like it's I don't think it's a like I don't think it's a planned dog shot. Like he's tucked his shoulder
Mm.
because he needs to get the maximum force from his run up and
Yeah.
it's illegal. It's a red card. No one's going to complain about it at all. But it came from the pressure and from losing that battle. And
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but was that not the what they lost from losing the lineup from the 50-22 from Ruan now?
I think
Yes.
it's almost that sort of point of the
Yes.
game. Yeah.
Yes. Like that was it. Like the forwards have put in this. Ackerman was not part of the whole game, but
Mm.
you know what's going on. You can see what's going on. You can see how shattered everyone is. And they had that moment. They partially lost it, and then there was an opportunity to try and salvage something, and
Mm.
he was late. Or he was beaten. I don't know if he was late. He
Yeah.
was beaten and he needed to blast him, and it's a red.
Should have been a straight red. I think I'm happy with the 20-minute red. If you're gonna have it, I think that's an example for it.
So have the laws not changed that they don't give straight red unless it's like eye gouging and ball grabbing and stuff like
I
that? So I
guess
think
so, yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I see a lot of people complaining about it. I think it's the confusion of how the laws are allowed to be blown at the moment, or how, so let me rephrase that, how that red card. I don't think it's going to be very difficult to get a straight red card.
Mm.
Like Jasper Visser's headbutt's a straight red card. Even Etzebeth's Agard's a straight red card. Like that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing. These things, croc rolls, stuff like that are not. I don't think we will see a straight red right now, as far as my understanding of the law is.
Yeah. Okay, so that happens. Leinster sort of build pressure from that. Then the Gibson Park try happens in the middle or just before Gibson Park goes for the try in picking up the ball. Murat's boot like knocks the ball out of Gibson Park's hand, and Davidson, yeah, actually, in some ways, credit to her. I mean, we can talk about the merit of the decision, but does go back to it because refs usually, if a try is scored, they almost have amnesia about everything that happened before that and just carry on. She goes back to that and puts the yellow card on Murat. I actually don't think I have too much of a problem with it. I don't quite understand. I get why people are saying it was inadvertent what Murat did, but I think if you're in a almost a somewhat unnatural position, you knock the ball out of the scrum half's hand, I think you're in trouble.
I disagree. I think it was a shocker of a call.
Okay.
However, I the downside of social media is you people are fixated on one thing, and that's what people Stormers fans were fixated on the whole
Mm.
post-match conversation. They were fixated on that. That did not influence anything. because the Stormers would still need to come back to score 2 scores in 9 minutes against a side that they were literally cannon fodder for. They literally, all they did was tackle. If you look at the most carriers, I think the Stormers had 3 players in the top 15 of carries for the game. And one of them was in 15th position. If you look at the Stormers defensively, sort of tackle numbers, I think they were 9 out of 10 top tacklers came from there, of which 2 of them were subs. So, like, the numbers, like, it kind of it does explain. Often the numbers don't make sense in rugby, but they do now. I think Holly Davidson got it wrong, and I don't think that it any way impacts her performance on the day. I didn't think she was bad. People are complaining about a ruck clean out from the side, which was marginal at best. So whatever. And then about players talking constantly. It happens every game. And then Leinster being offside. A team is offside every game. Like, there's that as well.
And that's
like,
probably more the assistant refs than Davidson herself, to be fair.
100%. So I don't agree with the decision because the reason why is I don't agree so many times we have a decision being made and you're kind of like, that is kind of the right decision, but the terminology doesn't make sense. Like, I can't even think of an example now, but the terminology that Davidson came up with, I didn't agree with. Like, he's not in an unnatural position. He's actually trying to get up, and you use your legs to get up. But then Slimani was standing over him and had a little bit of a knee in the chest, not in a bad way. Like, all players lie on other players, like, all the time. They hold them down. Like, it happens all the time. And by that happening, his legs came up, and then he needed to fulcrum down with his legs.
Yeah.
And he wasn't looking, he wasn't aware of it, he wasn't everything. It wasn't even a professional foul. It was illegal, but it was illegal in a way that he was not involved in it at all. He was trying to get away. Slimani did the best to interfere. And for me, that would have been a penalty and therefore advantage, but Jamison Gibson-Park scored, so it's a nothing. So what I hate about it, I absolutely hate about this decision is that's how Salman Moerat ends his Stormers career. And that's how all the haters get to jump on him all the time. Like, he's not everyone's cup of tea, but that man has done so much. He's been a servant for Western Province Rugby. He's the Springbok captain. Whether you like it or not, he's a Springbok captain, so fucking deal with it. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Like, he deserved better because he came on and played well. All the people that everyone loves to hate, they all played well this weekend. I thought Similani was decent. Like, I don't think he was poor. I thought Imad Khan had a flippin' phenomenal game. He made that defensive tackle he made at the end of the first half was elite. Moerat came on, made 10 tackles in, I don't know, was it 18 minutes or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that sort of stuff. And then that's how he ends his Stormers career, which pisses me off. Like, and I think it was a bad decision, but I don't think Holly Davidson had a bad game.
No.
Like, everyone is saying, oh, but the Stormers are asking questions and she's dismissing them. The Stormers were owned in every facet of the game. They just were holding on longer. Like, sometimes the pictures, people talk about the pictures. The pictures, the pictures said the Leinster were winning 35-8. That's what the pictures said.
Yeah.
But the Stormers were in it the whole way. So, I feel for him. It was a bad call, but that doesn't influence the game or how Holly Davidson officiated that game. Because did it influence the game? Could the Stormers have come back potentially? Yes, if they had 14 players on the park, but they had 13 players, and that was really the end of the game. But could they have scored from the restart? Possibly, but unlikely. And then we could have been in for a 5-minute humdinger. But it didn't happen that way. But I still think Holly Davidson had a fairly good to, I wouldn't say excellent. I think she She was hinging on having an excellent game. Like,
Yeah.
there's
I
nothing really to complain about, barring
I
that, which didn't
yeah.
impact anything.
I mean, look, there's I think there's about four top refs. You can kind of debate maybe on their order. So it's O'Keefe, it's and then it's like the English refs, so the Carleys, the Pierces, like that sort of like top tier. After that, from like number 4, 5 until about 12, everyone is pretty much on a, they'll be pretty good 80% of the time. They might make one or two calls that are a bit wild, but you get what you get from them. And I think Davidson is fully in that sort of category. Like she's a top 10
I,
ref. She's
I
one
think
of the three
she's
best refs.
I think she's in between.
Mm,
Honestly, if can you think of a time, and I could be wrong, and I'm pretty sure someone will point it out if I am, but can you think of a time Holly Davidson controversially made a bad call?
I don't think so.
No.
And if
Everyone wants a
what I like,
referee not to be
yeah,
involved in the game. She's not involved in the game. She officiates, she communicates well. Like, I think she's in between those two,
yeah,
very slightly.
yeah, I don't mind that. But my point is basically that, especially in the URC, where I think we struggle with good refs, she's clearly in the top two or three. Like it's Brace and Paradi. Like you're getting the best refs. I don't think Paradi would have made things different. I think Brace would have made things different. It's essentially for people complaining. I don't know what you're complaining about, essentially. Like she's clearly one of the best 10 refs in the world at the moment. I think the only problem I personally had with Davidson was maybe in the scrums she could have been a bit more forceful against the hinging that Leinster were doing, but she finally sort of got to it, um, a little bit later. Maybe it was trying to give chances to try and get a few complete scrums because there was a bit of a problem with that. But yeah, generally I think it was fine. It's obviously because she's a woman, it becomes a problem and it's all ridiculous and nasty, whatever the case is. But yeah, you can't tell me that that wasn't one, when you give it an 80 or 90% sort of game, one, and two, that in general, she's been one of the best refs in the URC. So obviously she deserves a game like this. Um, I think with the Stormers, yeah, I think you're right, Sean. They were holding on, they just couldn't hold on for that long. And yeah, it's one of those games where you're defending. Something has to give at some point. Either it's you as a defensive team scoring against the run of play, like sort of like that Imad Khan chance and sort of converting that, or it's the attacking team finally gets through. And unfortunately for the Stormers, they weren't able to do that. I guess one more sort of controversial thing while we're on it is the little tunnel bust up that happened between Doris and Evans.
Love it. So, you know, again, who cares? People are like, oh, it's so childish. That is the island captain. How can I couldn't give a shit. Like, it's not like the game's finished. If that was a tunnel bust up on the full-time whistle, then we can have proper conversations. But the game is still on. The game was hinging.
Yeah.
Leinster hadn't won it. Leinster were dominating and had nothing for it. And he ran past and then pushed Conor Evans, who I must say I was worried about. He was phenomenal.
Pretty good.
I thought he had an incredible game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to apologize, Connor, because I know that you are pretty handy. I didn't think you were that good, like, if I may say. But he pushed past him. There was a bit of a dust up, and then the boys went at it. It's half time. I have no problem with that. Like, what better way? You've got to get an edge on people. There's chirping. Sione Tuipulotu is the biggest mouther there is that is not wearing a 9 on his jersey. Like, that's how things go. That's how things go in the game. That holding down at ruck time, holding a player's leg after a tackle. That's exactly what happened. It just happened at halftime in the tunnel. You want to
Mm.
get one over your opposition. You want things to, like, it was something that a lot of people would not have seen was him running past and but I'm talking about the players involved, like running past and but pushing him because he pushed him into Kelleher. He
Yeah.
pushed him into another Leinster player who then turned around and was like, "Excuse me, get off." And then it was like, "Ah, it's on." You know what I mean? Like it was a great pinball moment.
Yeah.
Bring it on. I have no problem with that at all. Like,
Yeah.
does that influence the integrity of Caelan? No, it doesn't.
No.
It means he's competitive and he wants to win. And you probably find that Conor Evans has been chirping him or got a couple of big hits on him. Like, you do that to a player,
Mm.
firstly, a team that is putting you under pressure, but possibly Evans had one or two over him in the game. So he kind of was like, let me just get it back and cause a little bit of
Yeah.
chaos. Throw his mind
It's
off the game because this kid's way too focused.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the Irish videos are showing that Evan sort of nudged Doris first, and then Doris pushed him back. So I think as he was running into the tunnel, Evan sort of shoulder bumped him, and then Doris was pushing him
Ah,
back, and then the fighting started from there. So either way, play on. Let's go.
100%. 100%. Then I'm going to flip that. Let's say it was Conor Evans that did it first. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same conversation. Like you want to get one over the old boy. Like you
Yes.
probably have met him a few times in that game and maybe it's all square or he has like a 1-0 lead. Then you just get
Yeah.
in his head, like say, hey, listen, don't forget this face when you're having your halftime conversation. Bring it
Yeah.
on, man. I have no
Fantastic.
problem with that.
Yeah. I guess just a few other points. Weird Evan Russ game. Like obviously just great work rate. Got the two turnovers. Obviously made the most tackles. Just some weird dropped balls though in the middle of it and his carrying. Like his defense was great, and then it sacrificed his carrying when he got those few attacking opportunities.
One of that's a kind of Evan Roos game that people watch and be like, okay, we can see why he's a Springbok and why
Mm,
he could potentially be a Springbok again. It was very different to his game the whole season. He was tight. He was doing Springbok eighth man duty. That's
yeah.
what he was doing. Those drop balls, I don't know, maybe it's me because I'm not the biggest fan, but maybe it's me, but he seems a little bit slippery handsy for me. So
Yeah.
Evan Roos dropping a ball is kind of like Andre Pollard missing a kick to touch. It happens every game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, or Andre
Yeah.
Pollard having to wind up from 6 months ago to pass to the right, and then it still skids. Like, so Evan Roos kind of dropping, yeah, whatever. I thought the rest of his game was Springboky, as AP Cronje says. He's looking
Yeah.
very Springboky.
Springbok
That was
keeps
the
it.
kind of game that we need. That and ironically, and the best part about it is that's the kind of Evan Roos game. It's the kind of game the Stormers needed from their eighth man. And
Mm,
Evan Roos is not that kind of player, but he summed it up, and that's what he delivered. And I was like, okay, now we can. He does that two or three times. Now we can start having different conversations because
yeah.
it's not a flat track bully kind of a setup. Like, and all the guys will say, listen, he's been doing this the whole season. He hasn't really. He has not been your top tackler and everything. I haven't had a look at his
Mm,
CTR numbers yet, but pretty sure he hit a whole whack of rucks. Like his numbers
yeah.
would have been the highest for most things. So those drop balls didn't
Yeah.
phase me too much. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah. I guess also in the weirdish category, I can put Damien Willemse as well. Six turnovers lost. Not the most secure in the air as we've seen him. He's obviously been a fantastic fullback in most cases. But yeah, I think that's also credit to Leinster. I think they really targeted Leland Zass's wing. So he had to help out there. Zass obviously was yellow carded for a bit as well. And Jimmy O'Brien had a really good game chasing those balls. So credit to him. And then on the Leinster side, a really good Josh Van der, I mean, a really good game from that loose trio. Van der Flee, I think, looked injured. Like it looked like his leg was almost falling off. And he
I
played
thought he
another
was
30
gone.
minutes from nowhere.
Yes. Yes, I was like, listen, well done, shithead.
Yeah.
Well done. Because you made us all believe you were done, my friend. Everyone was like,
Yeah.
he's going to go off soon. Don't worry, I got another 30 minutes in the tank, boys. Let's go.
Yeah. Doris was great. I think Deegan, that was a like, oh, okay, you could be an Ireland international again. So that was a really good game from him.
Deegan
We've
Evan roast his game.
Yeah.
Basically, both of them were like, whoa, you're kind of like, oh, if you have a look at this, you're like, okay, okay, let's
Yeah.
talk.
Gibson-Park was great. I think we talked about James Lowe. Another New Zealander we need to talk about, Rieko Ioane had a really good game. We have to give it to him. I think he was
On attack.
really obviously good on attack. He wasn't really tested in defense, to be fair, so we can't really mark him down for that. But I mean, he's been a point of difference. Obviously, Leinster aren't really blessed with a ton of those sorts of attacking players. So just someone that's good off the mark, that can sort of exploit a gap. Like he did what he had to do there.
Yeah. Leinster had all the ball, and
Mm.
therefore Rieko Ioane wasn't put under pressure. So I'm just going to get that out the way. Um, the but yeah, the whole reason why you want those star players at 13 is their attacking ability. And
Mm.
he's pretty slippery. He's a big guy, like you also been defending for waves and waves and waves, and then he's got a half a meter. He's gonna eat you.
Yeah.
And he's quick enough to spot when you rock to shift, or if you're on the back foot, or if you're
Yeah.
making a bad call, and he'll tax you because he's quick enough laterally and going backwards and forwards. So yeah, so yeah, he had a good game, but I don't know if you want to have him there in a big game.
Yeah, that'll be also interesting. I mean, I think Leinster also have a big decision to make there in their midfield. I'd probably go Osborne Ringrose if I was them and put Rico on a wing. But then you're like, well, James Lowe's been really good at 11. He has to play. So we'll see what happens there. Slimani's turnover in the last 20 minutes, massive. And obviously, like
Huge.
he's in his mid 30s. He's obviously going to go back to Toulon next season. So that's definitely one way to make yourself a cult hero in Dublin. And Usanov, obviously coming on quite early for Porter being injured. Look, I don't think you're going to win too many penalties against Netherlands for sure, but held his own. I think he did pretty well.
Very. I thought the Stormers would get more out of him,
Mm,
but they couldn't, which upset me. I'm loving them Tunu for sheer prop axis.
yeah, it's
That
crazy.
that looks very much like there's another 3 years of them starting. I don't know if Nettling for sure will last that long, but oh, Tunu's playing the rugby of his life. He's
Mm,
confident. He's scrumming way better. I think
yeah.
that one thing we can say, like his biggest concern when he was playing at the Sharks was his scrumming ability. That was the biggest problem that people had with him was,
Mm,
can he hold up at scrum time? And he wasn't given as many chances. When he got some chances, he didn't do so well. Now he's fought for that number one jumper. He's scrumming relatively well. He just tightens that up a little bit. He's gonna have a long and amazing career ahead of him. I'm loving
mm.
I'm loving what the Stormers have brought out of him.
Yeah, no, Stormers are the place to go if your career's kind of dipping a little bit down. They will restore you. They will put you back up there. So yeah, he's been really good. Yeah, I think generally maybe the last thing to say on the Stormers is just yeah. I mean, we've been saying it for pretty much the whole second half of the season. Like it promised so much. I guess if you go back to what you're thinking about the Stormers at the start of the season, it's not a bad season. Top four team lost in a semi-final where you'll take that. But obviously, knowing that they were pretty healthily ahead after half of the competition, you're just thinking, geez, this is an opportunity lost because this easily could have been a semi-final in Cape Town that maybe swings the game to your side. You're hosting a final against the Bulls. It's a few margins, a few sort of dumb losses against Connacht or Cardiff or whatever the case is, and this is a pretty different season.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back to what I said during that December Champions Cup thing. Like when they lost that first game, I was like, "Oh, they
Yeah.
must be careful that this doesn't derail their season." And unfortunately, it did. Like it was like the decisions they made and the losses they took there, they did not recover from until probably maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe even this week. I don't know.
Yeah.
They didn't come back. there were questions around uh, um, positions and groupings of players and who's on the bench and who's starting, where previously there wasn't. So, listen, I know that you cannot play a single team. This is not Super Rugby. You don't play your best team the whole way through.
Mm.
We're well aware of that. It was how you balance things out and you don't take 600 points in 2 games and break everyone emotionally. So, yeah, it should have been different. They could have come back better, been different, secured like what did they need? They needed 4 points,
Yeah.
4 log points, and they would have beaten Leinster. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the Leinster Bulls next week Friday. So I mean, we have 2 weeks to build up for that, and we'll talk about that close to the time.
What's with the Friday game?
I think there's a concert happening.
Where?
Metallica, I think.
But where? In
Yeah,
Dublin.
because it's in Croke Park this game, right?
Yeah, but that's so they so the concert's on the Saturday. They can't play on the Friday because they're busy setting up. Or like
I don't know. Actually, I haven't looked at what the reasoning is. I heard something about a Metallica concert, but now
but
I don't know if it's at the Aviva or if it's at Croke Park, or is it at the Aviva, which means that they had to use Croke Park? Probably something like that.
yes, but
And then
then make
maybe
it
Croke Park
Saturday.
is because it's Gaelic football season, right? So maybe Croke Park's gonna be used on Saturday for that. So they had to
Uh,
host it on Friday. Maybe something along those lines.
I don't know. The URC have pooed something somewhere. Like if if these things are happening in the semi-final and final for Glasgow, final which didn't
Mm.
happen, and the final for Leinster, there's a bit of a problem here.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a thing of obviously European teams play in 10, 15,000 seater stadiums for the most of the season. And then obviously in the big game, you have to go to your national stadiums. And whereas South African teams play in national stadiums that are half empty for most of the time. And then it makes a lot of sense when it comes to finals time.
Can we talk about the amount of fans that Leinster didn't have? Do we get to speak about that yet?
I
No?
mean, yeah, I mean, there was a post saying they've lost like 40% of the fans they had like this time in 2024 in the equivalent matches.
Yeah, like they're even the quarterfinals were looking average.
It was, I think,
But then I
9,000 people.
what? Oh,
Yeah.
the Lions would never. The Lions would have at least 10. The but I did hear that come June it's holidays and everyone just basically packs up and leaves. So
Yeah.
yeah, we don't understand the truth behind it, but it was worth, taking a couple of jabs just to say,
Yeah.
listen, you over
Yeah.
there with the big mouth in the glass house, stop throwing those stones.
Yeah. I think the big negative now is there's 2 weeks for Cullen and Nienaber to say crazy things to the press again. So let's also watch out for that. Um, let's move to the Springbok squad. Big squad. I don't think we'll sort of go player by player here. It's a big 53-man training squad for the game against the Barbarians and the Springbok A game or the South African A game against Zimbabwe. That's all happening on the 20th of June, the same week or the same weekend or the same day actually as the Bulls Leinster final. So no Bulls players are available for this. Storms players are. And
The
essentially,
irony of poor Embrose Papier, who makes the Springbok squad, but then he misses out on the actual match day squad because of the Bulls. I just would
yeah.
like to mention that.
Yeah, and it would be so unlucky if like Faf de Klerk just suddenly sort of rises from the ashes, secures the jersey for the England game, and Papier's like,
Ah,
seriously?
stop it. Stop it.
So yeah, I think Sean, I don't know how much we can take from the squad. It's a lot of, well, there's number one, a lot of under 20 players that are also part of it. Will be interesting to see if they are released for the preparations for the Baby Box and the under 20 World Cup happening soon. Then there's quite a few uncapped players, Paul de Villiers, Batubel Hlekani, Henry Jacobs, Lorenzo Julius, Imad Khan, JJ Kotza, Sibabalo Mahashe, Hashim Peed, Nico Stain, and Yaku Williams, and Emmanuel Chituka. So
And
those sort of players are
Skillion,
all. Well, he's in the under 20s box. Obviously, all of them are uncapped as well.
oh,
So the
okay,
eight or
sorry.
so under 20, my bad, but I probably should have explained that as well. So there's a ton of under 20s. Not going to talk about all of them. Yakin Ahmed, Donny Kruger. Luan Vusi Moyo, you've got Riley Norton, Marcus Miller, Seketo Siaya, so and a few others as well. And then there's a few golden oldies that are back. So you mentioned Lucanio earlier. Vincent Koch has made his way into the team. Yeah, and then today we've had Carlos Sardi being added. He hasn't been in the Springbok squad for a long time. Been playing really well, obviously, for Bordeaux. And
And
Bordeaux's
thanks to
now,
the Bordeaux cluster, add the word there, of their top 14 that got knocked out. They're not even in the
yeah.
knockouts. So Saudi's in because of that. Yay.
Yeah. So I think Rassi literally, as the game probably ended, was like, "God, get ready to pack for South Africa." And Pepsi Buthelezi has also been added there as well. So I'm assuming the Dupree is also going to be added because, they're always in these training squads as well. Sure. Yeah, I don't know if there's any sort of big reactions you have from that. I guess there are a few sort of players that you think maybe could be here that aren't here. Um, for me, for example, some lines you could sort of call out Henku van Wyk, Frankie Horn, but yeah, maybe they're injured as well. But essentially, if you've been a Springbok, if you're all sort of in the running, you are in the squad if you're not in the Bulls.
Yeah. True story. I think Van Wyk in the quarterfinals he picked up a knock. So
Probably,
I'm
yeah.
hoping he's not there because of injury as opposed to just not being selected because we all want to have a look. The only thing I want to talk about is Kevin Foot must have written a long, angry message because his life has been flipped upside down now that
Yeah.
basically his squad's been gutted. And he's like, well, hang on, I'm actually trying to prepare for something. And we're defending champions, are we not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope him and Rusty had a conversation, and Rusty's like, this is what I'm going to work on. So hopefully something ties in with Foot. And yeah, it will, listen, not the worst thing because we could potentially then be increasing our catchment for not our catchment, our under 20s, where Foot can have a look at some other guys and maybe it'll grow us further later.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the one, I guess, talking point here is I don't understand why the under 20s are in the squad because at least how the press release makes it sound like these players are in the mix for these two games. It's not like it's a training squad where they'll be released. Maybe that's what eventually will happen and probably should happen. But it seems like these players are going to be quite involved in the preparations for the next 2 weeks, which is fine if it was maybe one or two. Like if Norton and Moyo, for example, were involved, like, okay, fair enough. Like they're really good. And look, France does this a lot as well with their under 20s. But yeah, I mean, especially the emphasis put on the under 20 program and trying to get wins from that. That is, yeah, Kevin Foot, I'm sure, is rightly mad at having to do a lot of this sort of because I think he also had to call up now 8 or 10 players to his squad in preparation. And it's not like the Junior World Cup is happening in 2 months where he can have a nice training squad, see someone. I think it's literally a week or so after this.
Yeah.
So these players maybe play against Zimbabwe, will then come back. Some of them could obviously get injured as well. And now Foot has to work around, oh, okay, I don't have Riley Norton or Moyo's not available, whatever the case is. So, yeah, I don't understand that. It's not like I feel like there are players in most of these positions that you can still probably call up that can do a job that have either been Springboks before or can do a job for you that, wouldn't sort of rock the boat in that sense. So, yeah, I don't get that from Rassi.
So my issue is those senior players that have missed out. The
Mm,
opportunity to be in a Springbok setup. It's an uncapped game against the Barbarians. The SAA is obviously uncapped, so it's not like you
yeah,
dishing out test caps. So that's my thing. Like he's drip fed some under 20s in for alignment camps. He's obviously wants to
yeah,
have a deeper look. He's obviously planning for later, but I think there are other guys. Like I can't for the life of me think of someone now, but I mean, what happens if Tara and Green or Joanna Augustus got a look in?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I know Green's been
yeah, why
injured
not?
and like surely. this would be better. But possibly this could be a logistics and a money thing. Maybe the guys are
I'm
there.
assuming the England France players are sort of, unless you can arrange with the club, it's basically you can't call them up until the release window is. And I
Maybe, yeah, maybe they don't want to play that get out of jail free card yet. Maybe you use that later on next year. You play that with the clubs
yeah,
when you got prepped for the World Cup, you know? I don't know.
yeah. But yeah, someone like, I don't think Chris Smith will be a Bok regular, but he could have been in the team easily for this SAA game against Zimbabwe, and Moya can get released. Richard Creel, Angelo Davids, those sort of, never mind. Short is just like absolutely not to that.
Not a
Okay,
fan.
Similani. Are we happy with Similani then?
Yes, I'll take Wandy.
But yeah,
But
so
no, you're
that
right. What
is,
about Wandy? What about Leolan Zas? He's
yeah,
not
I
in the
mean,
mix,
he's
eh?
also had a pretty bad season, to be
He
fair.
hasn't had a
So
great season, but I
yeah,
mean, there are players there that I would not mind got a South African rugby slash Springbok playing jersey from playing against Barbarians.
yes. Yeah. So that is, I think, the one weird thing. But yeah, good stuff. Congratulations on the likes of Koch and De Klerk and Is this last chance alone, Sean? Is it that dramatic yet, or is it just a matter of Rusty's just keeping an eye on these players? Like, where do you think those sort of senior players that haven't really been in the squads the last few months, what's their status?
I think it's basically just a little top up of the contract. Just a little top up. Just be like, listen, you're still in the mix. Stay fit. Keep you on your toes. Like,
Yeah.
I know I've been saying that you're still in the mix now. I'm going to prove that you're still in the mix. I'm going to bring you in. You're going to spend some time with us. Have a look around. We'll assess you. Send you away with another roadmap if need be. But just stay ready because we could need you.
Yeah. Okay, staying with the Springboks, we'll go to other coaching news a bit later, but I think the big news related to the Springboks is Tony Brown has signed with the All Blacks for 2028 as one of the assistant coaches. So Brown, after he finishes his contract with the Springboks, will then join the All Blacks. Obviously, Tony Brown is a New Zealander, so surprise, surprise, he wants to coach in New Zealand, he wants to live in New Zealand. What's interesting, Sean, obviously do the Springboks have to worry about that? I would probably say no. I don't think it's a pretty much a nothing burger there. It's interesting that the New Zealanders now have an assistant coach to a coaching team that they don't have in 2028.
That is the most important part of this. That's so weird. Like, I don't want to say this is a non-story because it's very relevant, but Tony Brown going back to coach the All Blacks is not a massive problem. And wait for it, it's when his contract ends. Okay? So for
Yeah.
those, Thala, you are a lawyer. Can you explain contracts to people? So, there's that. So whatever. Doesn't phase me. I think it's beautiful little bit of mind games from NZRU to release it 18 months out. Why would you do that? Just maybe force a wedge in between. But our guys are strong. Like they're a solid group. They have great, authentic conversations. I think that's the one thing that we have probably realized about Rassie Erasmus and his coaching style and his management style is it seems like everyone is there, fits in. They have open conversations. There's no like outsiders. You know what I mean? Like there's no guy
Yeah.
that's doing stuff, but he's not like involved. Everyone will get invited to dance farm is basically the vibe. Like there's no one that's never going to be invited. So whatever. But the biggest thing for me is they're bringing a guy in to be an assistant coach when the All Black coaches historically have got to pick their own team, but now they're going to be like, hang on, this is it. Or are they bringing him in to be head coach? Oh, now there's that.
So David Rennie, let's say he wins the World Cup. He has been working with Mike Blair, poor Mike Blair, by the way, but he's been working with Mike Blair for I think the last like 7, 8 years, like or last few years at least with Japan, with Glasgow as well. So does Mike Blair have to go back to Scotland after the World Cup if, for example, New Zealand somehow wins it or whatever the case is. Like, it's such a weird situation to put yourself in. Like, I mean, I don't think Tony Blair has a problem with working with Dave Rennie. Who knows? I mean, if it was like if Jamie Joseph was the head coach, this makes a ton of sense. Like, cool, this
Yes.
pretty much means Joseph will continue from this. But it's just like, okay, you've got now it's almost it's similar-ish in a way to the like this Ninob is coming back rumor. It's like that's fine to an extent, but also that means there's a existing coach that has to be moved somewhere or has to quit or his contract is just cut off, whatever the case is. And this is just very awkward now for the coaching staff that is now put into the NZR that you're already on notice and you haven't even literally, I think they landed today because the Japanese League One start or their team finished this weekend.
Yeah, it's weird. There is a potential snowbally problem here where it could really go tits up
Mm,
in 2028. And you'd be like, well, we kind of saw that. We saw the potential of that happening, which is everyone's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like there's a potential
yeah.
for some problems here. Um, but Brown moving is not a problem. Brown, I even think he said he always wanted to coach the Springboks. He even said that he was sorry, the All Blacks. He was even approached to coach the All Blacks, but he was like, I'm contractually involved here and I can't.
Yeah.
Did Scott Robertson not ask him?
I think the story was that he was asked by Razor, I think last year or something like that. I think there was also a story that he was kind of asked in this sort of coaching search as well. So, I mean, look, credit to Tony, which is why I don't think it's much of a problem for the Springboks. He seems like he's been quite committed to this project, and it's good for him. Like, it'll make him a much better coach being involved with the Springboks. And I think this probably sets him up as the next in line, whatever the hell happens in 2028, he's probably the one that's got a foot in the door. But yeah, this is a weird situation. And Mike Blair has literally, I think they won on Saturday. He's probably landing in New Zealand and he's already on the clock. Like he needs to make sure that he hasn't signed a like his lease must be less than 2 years just to make sure that he has that flexibility. Like Dave Rennie's somewhat already undermined. Like you said, a New Zealand head coach usually picks their own assistants. Like I
Is
get
this
it.
is this them saying, listen, Dave, just don't mess up too badly and then we'll give you an extension? Because Dave Rennie and Brown are like this,
Are they?
aren't they?
Isn't Jamie Joseph the one that's close to
Oh,
Tony Brown?
my bad, my bad, my bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
that
man, I mean,
spices
look,
it up even more.
yeah.
I got my head coaches mixed around.
Yeah, no, look, fair enough. I mean, they might be great. They also might be horrible. Like, obviously, it's New Zealand rugby. Like, everyone knows each other. So I'm sure there's been a moment where Tony Brown has pissed off Dave Rennie or vice versa. It's just such a weird situation to put yourself in. Like, did they need to do this? I mean, to an extent, yes, because it's Tony Brown. But I think you kind of just maybe have a wink wink contract with them and just go, look, we'll sort it out and announce it when we need to announce it, but
100%.
we've got you type of thing.
Yes, you just keep it on the DL.
Yeah.
There's no, do your job, get your guys secured, and then have that conversation when you need to have that conversation. Do they need to have this conversation now? No. The conversation is being had now publicly to cause cuck,
Yeah.
nothing else,
For
really.
themselves, which is
Yeah.
ironic.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. We'll stick quickly in New Zealand or Australasia. So, well, okay, let's go very quickly to Japan. Congratulations to the Quebec Steelers. They won the Japan Rugby League One. So congratulations to Dave Rennie. He comes in as a champion to the All Blacks. So great on him. Obviously, um, Moanga's team had the cup for like the last few years, so they did quite well to wrest it back from there. Brody Retallick, I think, was named player of the tournament, if I'm not mistaken.
Gazler. He's there and thereabouts all the time, man.
Yeah. I mean, he might find himself in this All Black squad. I mean, I think there's a big push for making those Japanese-based players eligible for this South Africa tour.
They asked him in the presser, and just just get me right here. Who's the All Black coach? It's not Jamie
Dave Rennie.
Joseph. Dave Rennie. I just want to, because I'm I'm doubting myself. Dave Rennie's the coach of the team that won and Glasgow.
Yes.
So they
Yes.
asked him in the presser. They said to Brodie Retallick, "Would you go back to New Zealand and play for All Blacks if they gave you a chance?" And before he could answer, Dave Rennie said, "Yes." Something like that.
Oh,
So
what
there's
a
that.
mess. Yeah.
There's that. And
And
Richie Mo'unga is
Monga's,
going, I'm sorry, what about me?
yeah. I mean, he's technically not eligible for the tour. New Zealand would be stupid to not allow those players to come back into their team ASAP. Obviously, Scott Barrett got injured. I think we didn't have a chance to talk about that. So he's out of the tour. I think Tamati Williams is out. I think Bowden Barrett is also 50-50. Like, New Zealand losing quite a few players. Maybe pick your best ones. You don't have to like pick new like people based in France. Pick the ones that are based in the same hemisphere or hey, same time zone as you that clearly have a very light season. Like I think New Zealand needs to make that decision quite quickly, and clearly their head coach wants that decision to be made.
The
Yeah.
frustrating thing is that Richie Mo'unga doesn't not qualify because he's not going to be playing in New Zealand. Like he's signed to go back, but because he
Yes.
hasn't physically played minutes in a New
Yes.
Zealand based shirt, ah,
Throw him in a club game. Literally, whatever, like Ranfurly Shield or whatever. Like, just throw him into a game. I don't even care.
the
Like,
only
I
good
want Monga
thing
in there.
about New Zealand rugby is Shield fever right now. The
Yeah.
Super Rugby's gone to shit, so the NPC and Shield fever. That's all.
Yeah. Speaking of Super Rugby, so Hurricanes, Crusaders, and Chiefs, they won their way to the semi-finals. And the Blues have conceded 50 points, lost, and are also in the semi-finals this weekend. Obviously, this format where the best loser basically also makes a semi-final, quite controversial. Um, the one sort of message we got from Cooks is to mention how crap this format is, but it now means the Chiefs will host the Crusaders for the first semi-final, and then the Hurricanes host the Blues. Yeah, these semifinals were, or these playoffs, or whatever you want to call them, the last six, not really competitive. I mean, the Reds Chiefs game kind of looked a bit spicy, but the Chiefs sort of got away from it, and the Blues lost, but also it didn't really matter at the end.
You know, like I kind of half watched. I can't add value to this conversation except I do want to say is I think they need to change their format. Um, like I'm all for trying new things, but it didn't really make sense from the flipping the eye test as before it started. So I don't know how it got this
Mhm.
far for 2 seasons, but probably need to change it.
Yeah. I did sort of watch a bit more. David Havili looks good, like decent form, could sort of put himself in there for All Black consideration. Jamie Hanna, he's a lock for Crusaders. I didn't know he had an offload game like he does. Like he was pretty much just posted on the wing, sort of as their sort of edge forward, and he was causing havoc for the Blues. So I think he could be someone that South African fans get to know about in the next few months. So I think he was good. And last thing very quickly, Fainga'anuku seems to be working in this flank position. It seems like it's working mostly for the New Zealand teams. He was
When he
combining
doesn't get
quite
his
well
head
with,
taken off.
well, yeah, he was, geez, that one tackle was ridiculous. But he survived that somehow. Didn't have to go for an HIA, which was ridiculous.
That is something that needs to change.
Yeah, I very much want to say you get hit with a high tackle like that, you must go for HIA. But anyway, him and Ethan Blackadder combined really well. I really hope Ethan Blackadder finds his way into an All Black squad. Apparently, his former coach didn't think he was good enough last season, so let's see.
What are the All Blacks going to do at 13? Because Fainga'anuku was going to solve that problem. But now he's decided to come for Andre Esterhuizen. I mean, I'd love to see how he plays in test games, and I do think that we will definitely see him start there against the Springboks in one of the games at least, because they might. Well, I no, I forget. We haven't seen the vibes of the new coach yet, but I think he's done enough that he will move there. But they need to fix 13. Love's been playing well.
Love isn't
It
playing
seems
quite
like
well, yeah.
Love's a viable option at 10. But
Yeah.
we've seen All Black 10s kind of need to learn the way a little bit. They have to nervously select some people that they don't have any backups for now.
Yeah.
Like 10's a problem because they're running out of time, 13's an issue.
I guess it's Tupai and Geordie. They finished the end of the season as the center
Yeah.
combo. They've been in good form. Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, I'd still want maybe a more of a 13. Didn't really, I think, deliver. It's been like Eno and McLeod at 13 for the Crusaders. Tava Nawai has been good for the Highlanders. So we'll see about that. So I I think there are some questions about the 13 channel. Let's sort of do another other roundups. Prem, we've got our semi-finalists. Epic game between Saracens and Exeter. Exeter winning 32 points to 12. Big, 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 big Henry Slade game. I think it was absolutely brilliant. Thomas Du Toit getting a hat trick, securing Bath's hosting of a semi-final as well. Sean, can you take us through all of that?
So the Exeter Saracens game was unbelievable. Exeter got through that game on emotions and on the fact that it was Saracens. There's a little bit of needle from
Yeah,
history. Like I think the best thing that could happen now for Bath is that they're playing Exeter in the semis. That's probably the best way it could have unfolded for them. Exeter may have played their final already,
yeah.
but it was, yeah, Saracens didn't have an answer. They were Exeter when they put the hammer down in the second half were unbelievable. I didn't get to watch a lot of the Bath game. Thomas du Toit hat trick. Game was touch and go. Um, I think it was Orlando Bailey missed the conversion at the end. I think it hit the uprights to
Yeah.
force a draw. That would have changed everything. What I'm equally as happy about is that Bath are not playing Leicester in the semis. I'm
Yes.
I'm telling you right now, and I told my mate about 2, 3 weeks ago. I said you do not want to play Leicester Tigers in the semi-final. They are looking different.
Yes.
Hammer Webb's come back. I don't like Leicester's wingers, but I will tell you now. Uh, so I'm not a fan of Ollie Hassel-Collins. I don't rate him, but who's the other one? The other speed merchant used to play for Newcastle.
Radwan.
Adam Radwan, I'm not a fan of, but he made errors in a game that I was watching, and he fixed them in game and changed things up. So I'm okay with him, but they've got to start Hammer Webb. And they're coming right a little bit with their tens. James O'Connor, a little bit shaky, but they've got options. So you don't want to play Leicester Tigers in the semi-final, and it's Saints versus Leicester. It is going to be a screamer.
Yeah. I mean, I think the semi-finals are set up so well because it's
Yeah.
sort of a clash of styles in both of them. Like the free running team against the really tight team. I think all four teams are actually like thinking, making themselves think, not in the delusional rugby or sports way, but I think all four of them are legit like, this is exactly the semi-finalists we wanted. This is the team that we wanted. We have a plan for them. We have something for them that's different. So I think that it sets it up so well for this weekend.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. Saints Tigers derby as well. Like it's massive. Plus
Yes.
Saints
Bath Exeter is
rested.
also sort of a derby, isn't it?
Yo, I don't know. I saw someone say that, and I mean,
Yeah.
listen, Bath have Gloucester and Bristol right there, so that's derby for
Yeah.
me. But that's just South African me talking. Like maybe there is something between Bath and Exeter that I don't know about. But the Saints rested 95% of their side.
Yes.
So there's that conversation that's going to happen. Like, are
Mm.
they guys going to come back and hit the ground running? We've seen this happen often where it works and where it doesn't work. So there's that. Yeah, we're in for a cracker. And
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
I am going to go on a bit of a limb. Exeter Leicester final. I'm feeling it in my bones.
No, don't you
I'm
dare.
sorry. I
Bath
know you're a
Leicester.
big Bath fan.
Bath Leicester.
Yeah.
I think Leicester win. I think Bath have got enough. The thing is, Bath are having a very much of a wobble.
Yeah.
That is quite clear. So,
Is Finn going to come back?
yeah, I didn't know he was injured. So
Mm,
maybe they just chose to rest him, but they're a different
yeah.
side. Jomo Lawrence playing a little bit more together. I'm keen. Joe Cognacega's back on. He's on form. Like I'm a massive fan. This season he has been huge.
Yeah, he's been
Whether
really
they
good.
play Carreras or de Glanville at 15, it doesn't matter. Tom de Glanville's another player I must apologize to. I was never a fan, but he's been great. Like Ted Heal's playing well. They seem to balance out things like Fakran balances out how he does his bench quite well.
Mm.
Um, you know, what's his face? Alfie's got some
Yeah.
unfinished business now that he's leaving. There's a lot happening. It's going to
Yeah.
be great. I
Yeah.
couldn't take it if Bath lost. I couldn't. I couldn't.
Shame. But I mean,
But
look,
Exeter have got enough to beat them. The way
yeah.
that they've finished the
And some
season, they've
really
got
on
enough.
form players. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I talked about Slade. Ikita was great. Tom Hooper just broke the ankles of Theo Dan. It
But
was
don't
a
like. So it
dirty
was even
step.
better. It was horrible. He's
Yeah.
inside out at him. It's
Yeah.
basically what would a backline player do to a forward if it was 5 meters in front of him? Tom
Yes.
Hooper's like, hold my
Jeez.
beer. I got this.
Ridiculous. And Andreas Zambonin might be the player of the Prem this season. He's been absolutely brilliant. He was great in the Six Nations as well. Just he marauds around the field, and he's obviously fantastic in the lineout as well. So Joe Dweba, obviously, we can always also be happy about him. So yeah, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I know Exeter are definitely not loved for many reasons, but this team, yeah, I very much enjoy this team, and yeah, I think
And
they got the
Riddle,
right Aussies in the two.
yeah, and Riddle at the back is South African, and
Yes.
he's playing some decent rugby. They chop between him on the wing and at 15. I think he looks really nice at 15 for me. I quite like it. But he's like a tall, rangy guy. Like he hits that line at pace, goes for the corner. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot to like about them. And Baxter coming back and taking the reins again, Slade cooking, all
Yeah.
those like cult heroes. I mean, Salmon's basically just doesn't ever need to buy a beer in Exeter ever again.
Oh,
And neither does
never.
Slimani in Dublin. Free beers
Yeah.
for life. You guys we love you. Bring it.
Yeah. Okay. French rugby. Congratulations to Vaughan. They've qualified for the top 14. They beat Provence. Pretty tense game, as it always is in these games. So they won 18-14. Provence are going to face Perpignan in the Access game, which is most. That game will always go down to the last minute. So I don't care how much of a favorite Perpignan is. It's going to go down to the last minute. But Sean,
Sunday.
yeah, a ton
It's
of just mess that happened this weekend in the barrage qualifications. The European champions are out. They are not in the top six. The team that beat them, Clermont, somehow inadvertently also went out.
yeah.
And La Rochelle, I think they won the last 8 of 9 games or something like that. So shout out to Ronan O'Gara. They make it. So it's Toulouse, Montpellier, they through to the semis. And then Stade Francais playing La Rochelle and Pose facing Racing in the two barrage games.
Yeah, so listen, I think Racing making it and so Racing, Stud, and La Rochelle, like all have had wonky seasons or seasons last year or the year before. Like, so
Mm,
there's that. Clermont, I feel for them. So for those that don't know, the top 14 try bonus point works on three more tries. So the thing is Bordeaux they were comfortably in control of the game. They had a big enough lead, but they were in control. And then Clermont brought on Peter Gus Sowakula. I butchered his
yes.
name, I apologize. Peter Gus, massive grey beard. It was beautiful. He came onto the field and tore Bordeaux apart. He every time I looked up, he was running and breaking advanced line. I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on here? Um, he was on fire, and then Clement got in the mix, and then Plummer's like, cool, I got this, and snaps a drop goal to take the lead. And yeah, Bordeaux, all Bordeaux needed to do was win, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Clement needed to win with a bonus point, which they couldn't do because I think they finished both on 3 tries each, so they were quite
Yeah.
far away from it. But it also hinged on what La Rochelle did. So Clement was still in the mix when they won, but it turned out that they needed another. I think it was wild. It was
Yeah.
it's the most
So yeah,
beautifully French thing ever.
yeah. The league, I mean the European champions, like literally finishing eighth. I mean, they finished quite comfortably ahead of Toulon, but in theory, they could have dropped out of the top eight. That gets him, automatic qualification for the Champions Cup. So they just got the last place. But yeah, so
But they're
they were two
champions, so
points.
they automatically
Yes.
qualify.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, so there, I mean, that last, so from fifth to eighth, they are separated by 4 points, which is really ridiculous. Yeah, shout out to Poe. They've had a really good, consistent season. Slightly unlucky not to be in the top two, but they've been sort of chugging along, winning more than they've lost. I mean, Stade and Montpellier were able to just to sneak ahead of them. Two Paris teams in the top six, which I don't think has happened too many times. So big seasons for Stade Francais and Po. I mean, and Racing. And yeah, La Rochelle are the team that's on form. And there's always in the top 14, be aware of the team on form. So I'm sure La Rochelle is going to make a big run. And obviously, they have a lot of unfinished business with this competition. Did you see the haka that they did for Winnie Antonio?
Yeah, it was great. And
Yeah.
also, I do want to shout out La Rochelle were giving Tawera Barlow some social media love in his Stade Francais kit before the game. Like,
Mm.
you're a legend when like they love him. So, but yeah, back to Winnie. Yeah, unbelievable. It was TKB, High West, and who else was it?
Skelton, I think.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, he did grow
Oh,
up in New Zealand, so it's not, I
yeah,
guess,
yeah, yeah.
too unfamiliar.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it looked like Ehia West's son was throwing a rugby ball at him the whole way through, which was quite funny, little kid. But yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Weenie's,
I
yeah,
guess,
sure,
yeah.
feel for him, eh? He's such a legend.
Yeah. Look, absolute hero of the game. Obviously, another person that will never have to buy any sort of beverage in La Rochelle for the rest of his life.
Or France, for that matter.
Genuinely, and I mean, I'm sure you do because you're a rugby nose, but like, he acted in a Shakespeare play.
I did not.
I think he was, yeah,
Weenie,
and like when he's like 19 or 20, yeah, I think it was,
was he the tree? Did
no,
he
no,
play a
no, a
tree?
relatively lead role. He
No
spoke.
ways.
Yeah,
Love
so
it.
we need him to be back on stage then. I think, yeah, it's interesting that Stade Francais and La Rochelle are facing each other for the second week. So I wonder how that dynamic will play out. I think Stade played a full strength team from what I could see.
From what I remember, it wasn't far off if it wasn't their
Yeah.
first choice. So yeah. So shout out to Jeremy Ward. I mean, Cooks went to go watch him play a couple of weeks
Yes.
ago when he was cruising around watching clay court tennis. Um, they went to school together, didn't they?
Did they? I think they were in
Or they
Eastern
might they
Province
they might
vibes,
have
yeah.
played age group rugby together, but
Yes.
yeah. So that and yeah, my fanboy Joe Marchant as well. Not South African, but he needs a shout out.
Yes.
His last
Okay.
few games there, but Stud have done well. Stud have been a little bit of a yo-yo, man. They were in the
Mm,
running 3 seasons ago. Last season they were about to get relegated. Now this season they're like, it's cool, we're back,
we're
bring
back
it.
again. Yeah. Sean, let me just throw like the last few news items on you. You can sort of take it where you want to. So, Sean Edwards is rumored to be sacked by the FFR. Looks like he's not going to continue. Looks like Fabien Galtier is going to get in the Montpellier defense coach, as I don't have his name in front of me, and sort of change up things before the World Cup. So it's Edwards and another coach. Don't have the information, but it's mostly Edwards. That's obviously the big headline. Andy Farrell, he signed a contract with the Irish Rugby Union. He's going to stay until 2031. Rumors of him going to Saracens are obviously not going to happen now, and he's secured the contract for the next World Cup, which is interesting. Interesting story with Ellie Kildan. She's not her contract has ended with Harlequins. Some news came out or a report came out about there being problems with her coming or being always late for team commitments and not coming to team socials because she has all of these commercial commitments. She spoke in her podcast about the fact that it's difficult for her to sort of keep time because she really struggles with ADHD and stuff like that. So that's a bit of a mess. And currently, she doesn't have a club, and that's what the best player, one of the best players in the world right now. And finally, the Sevens have finally finished. I don't
Again,
know. Yeah, again. And the Blitzboks are officially the men's champions. They got enough points to do that. France did win the tournament itself, and they knocked out the Blitzboks in the quarters or semis, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they win the men's. Australia won the women's tournament as well, the overall tournament. And Tristan Lates is the player of the tournament for the men, and Georgia Miller is the female or the women's player of the year there. So you can do what you want with all of that news.
right. So Tristan, unbelievable. He deserves it.
Yes.
So the Blitzboks are two to the power of two champions. So they've won it 2 years
Yes.
in a row, both of them twice, again.
The league and then the finals, whatever you want to call it.
I still don't even know what it is, but I'll tell you, Tristan Lates has been front and center for everything that the Blitzboks have been doing well. So
Mm,
pretty stoked with that. Um, then, yeah. So this Sean Edwards thing is weird because for most of us, it's come out of nowhere. But then I was
mm,
listening to like Hamilton speak and a couple of other guys on some podcasts, and they were like, he's always seemed like he's a little bit on the outside of it.
yeah.
And so there's that. So where's he going to go? I don't know. Who's going to pick him up? Maybe he'll sign for the All Blacks in 2028 as potentially another backline something or something. But
Can
he
I
needs to
just
be in
say
rugby.
very quickly on the Edwards thing? Yeah, I think everyone in French rugby has basically said he's been, I think since the World Cup, it's been like sort of him being nudged out of the door slowly but surely. It seemed like the defense was a little bit up and down the last few years. Like they have games where they're fantastic, and then they have games where they concede 30 or 40, as we saw with the Springboks in Scotland as well. So, and it kind of seems like his way of defending is maybe not the way to defend in rugby anymore. So maybe sort of that classic rush defense isn't really made for a team like him. I heard in the For the Love of Rugby pod, um, Dan Cole was making the point that he's probably the perfect defensive coach for England. So maybe that works.
Yeah, but they also spoke about like the 38 other defensive assistant and head defensive coaches that England have. So
Yes.
that's a podcast on its own to talk about England and their coaching setup and whatever. But Sean Edwards has got to be involved in something. And we'd love him to be involved for a World Cup. So we'll see what happens. Then onto the Andy Farrell thing. This surprises me,
Mm,
but I can tell you my thought process. It doesn't surprise me too much because I think he's done enough. There's obviously with succession planning conversations, he's going to have to do something with Ireland with the changing of the guard. So he's obviously proven that he can. I think the British and Irish Lions are super stoked about this, like because they can almost then guarantee that he can stay with them. So there's that. But the IRFU have signed him onto a long contract, and they are banking on Borthwick having a shit show in the next 12 to 15 to 18 months. England firing him, and then England paying all the money in the world to buy Farrell out of the IRFU contract. And that
mm.
way, Irish rugby get to make a small fortune. That's my thought process anyway. But yeah, listen, you can't argue with it. Like Ireland have been a little bit on the down, so but they're good enough to still be in there. Can he bring this new crop of players up to where Ireland were? I don't know. That's going to be the key because that's his benchmark. Like he's not going to be able to turn around and say, I don't have the players. They're going to be expecting that. So looking forward to seeing how that unravels. Um, then the Ellie Kildane thing is a bit weird. Like I can't really comment on it. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Like I've seen a few things. Like I totally understand. Like as a coach, if someone, no matter who you are, if someone is consistently late and can't fix that problem, that is a
Yeah.
player's problem. But then I also saw some people going, well, who's Mark Chisholm, who's the head coach? They're like, well, if you've got like 98% of the England squad in your team and you can't win the PWR. Like,
Yeah.
is there something else going on there? So there's that. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. And then I forget the last thing.
I think
Can't
that's
remember.
basically everything. But yeah, so
Hmm.
Blitzbox, it's well, sevens in
So
general.
Ellie, she would have to belong to a club to qualify to play for England.
I think so. She can't just play in
No.
France or I mean, the PWR is the best tournament in the world, so
Yeah. So she would have to like be registered to a club just so she qualifies to play for England. I mean,
yeah.
there's that. But someone's gonna
Saracens,
pick her up.
Bristol
Someone has to pick
maybe.
her up.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I think. I mean, obviously, Gloucester Hartbury has been like dominating the competition for I think in the last few years. Saracens has Jess Breach there, so she could obviously link up with her. Bristol obviously put in the money for Ilona Maher. They've famously said that they all about the social media stuff and not what's on the field, and that obviously got their CEO in trouble the last few weeks. But yeah, what about Johan Rupert,
Saracens would
Patrice
be
Motsepe, put the money in,
ooh,
bring it to the Bulls daisies.
Bulls. There we go. Saracens would be the best team to sign her because their social media will have a field day. I mean,
Oh,
they would literally just post a clock and just be like new signing, and everyone would know.
yeah. So I'm sure there will be some things that come out of this for the next few weeks. Yeah, I think yeah, you're right, Sean. Like there's definitely a few sides to the story we're missing. And I guess the one nice thing about women's rugby is the players do speak out. So I'm sure if there was a big problem in the squad, someone from the Harlequin squad is going to say something relatively soon. And we're going to hear, no,
Absolutely.
this is a story. But I also, fair play to Kildan for also in her podcast being like, well, this is what I'm struggling with. These are the reasons. It's, yeah, it didn't go how I wanted it to go. So, yeah, I think something will definitely come out, I think, in the next few weeks.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right. That's the one thing that's probably the most refreshing thing about the women's game is
Mm.
like everyone's just so unashamedly themselves. They get to say what they want and they get to party how they want to party, man. Like just do your
So
thing.
I'm
Do your
sure,
dances, just have a jaw.
yeah. Uh, which team will get the famous cowboy?
Is
Okay,
this the equivalent of Antoine Dupont being thrown out by Toulouse?
pretty much. And not for like a crazy reason, but DuPont sort of, because I mean, Sean, you watch other sports, you know that in other sports, the superstar can arrive whenever they want. Like in basketball, it's talked about how many times in the NBA that like a team needs to leave on their like chartered flight to a game, and the superstar arrives like an hour late for the flight. And he can just do that
Ah,
because he's the superstar. Obviously, rugby works differently generally, and especially for women's rugby, it's probably not at that level yet. And it probably, especially with the pay and that some of the women at least still have to probably moonlight a little bit to make, the money that they should make. It's a different dynamic. So in some ways, I'm like, okay, this is in some ways somewhat refreshing that a team is able to stand up to a star player, but I'm also like, I don't think Harlequins would do the same to Marcus Smith if he's sort of late and there are reasons for that as well. So it's yeah, I I I think there is some level of you can wait for some of other facts to come out and then we'll see what the actual story is.
Who's the most likely men's player to blase, meh, I'm just late. So firstly, I think it would be a French or an Italian player because they'll just kind of cruise. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I could get into shit here, but I'm trying to think who would be that
Maybe a
player.
sneaky player would be Ardie Severe because of how much power he has in NZR right now. Like they're not gonna they're not gonna leave to South Africa without him, surely. Like
It's a Fijian. It'll be a Fijian. There's no doubt. The Fijians have done it forever anyway. Just buggering off back home or not coming back from home for like another 3 weeks.
yeah, I I'd like to see how that would play out in other teams, but yeah, like I'm sure there'll be stuff that comes out of this in the media in the next few weeks for sure.
I'm telling you now, if Antoine Dupont was continuously late for French meetings in a World Cup year, they would never drop him.
Oh, 100%.
They would never drop him.
I mean I know obviously Rassie runs a tight ship, but if Peter Steve du Toit was doing that, I don't think Rassie is going to drop him for the whole tournament. He might just drop him for a game, and that's
And he
enough to
would
get,
and he would leak as to why. Like he would just be like,
yes,
this is why, because of X, Y, and Z.
yeah. But I don't think it'll be like, okay, you're not playing for the box again situation. Like, I think there's an extent where a coach or a team knows, look, this is the best player that we have. If he says jump, we say how high.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant.
But yeah, Sean, I think that is a bumper podcast for everyone to listen to that has sort of covered pretty much all bases. So we have a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of knockout rugby in New Zealand, in France, in England, and we have a week to sort of wait for what's happening in the URC as well. So please do like, share, subscribe to this podcast, and wherever you get this on your podcast platforms, please follow us on our social media channels as well. And yes, we will see you again next week. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.